I'm Walt Williams. I'm the lead writer on Spec Ops: The Line. Spec Ops is 2K's first foray into the military shooter genre. What we were looking to do was create a military shooter that kind of changed video games the way films like Apocalypse Now and Platoon changed war films back in the 70s and the 80s. Instead of making it simply just about entertainment and kind of popcorn blockbuster kind of excitement, we wanted to make something that was a bit more thought-provoking, a bit more emotionally realistic to maybe being in combat and being in a wartime situation. The overall story of Spec Ops is the city of Dubai has been ravaged by cataclysmic sandstorms, and you, as Captain Martin Walker, have been sent in looking to see if there are any survivors. What you find is that there are in fact quite a few, and they have for some reason turned on each other. Both the refugees left in the city and the damn 33rd, the American battalion that was sent in, led by Commander John Conrad, in hopes of helping evacuate those people. And so now you, with your squad, are having to go further into the city to try and rescue these people and figure out what exactly is going on.
So when you set out to push the medium forward, as a writer, what's the first step?
Oh, well, the first step, I think, is when you're trying to do something that no one's been done, is you look out and say, okay, what is the game that I want to be playing right now that I can't play? What is the game that no one has made yet that I have been waiting for? Because the fact of the matter is that as creators, we are gamers. We wouldn't be working in games if we were not. And we are an excellent barometer to kind of ask ourselves internally, what else, what do I want to play? Because if what I want to play isn't out there, then that means there's an audience out there that is also waiting for that game. And so when us and Jaeger went off and kind of looked into this, that's what we were looking for. Where was the military shooter that said to us something a bit deeper, a bit more, and kind of made us ask questions? That was ultimately what we wanted to do with Spec Ops, is get a player thinking about, when I pull the trigger on a controller, and that character inside that game is pulling the trigger on that gun. We wanted them to think about that connection. It's not simply entertainment. This is something that people sign on to do for their entire life. They go out and they put themselves into these very difficult combat situations. And we had kind of, in games, just turned it into entertainment. I mean, other than that, you can say kind of egotistically, well, we wanted to change the industry and but really we just wanted to make something that was more real. We have an opportunity with games that no other medium has. You can actually step into the shoes of another person. You can go through the experience of something that you may never feel in your day-to-day life. A book, a movie, music, these are voyeuristic. But with games, the entertainment's fantastic, but we can be more as well. And we're just beginning to expand into that as an industry. And I think the whole industry is growing together. We're standing on the shoulders of each other and continuing to build. It's a fantastic time to be in games and to be a gamer.
So is there ever a risk of affecting the player too much, putting something too traumatizing into the game?
There is a point where we had the gameplay also be extremely realistic, and we did find that it created an experience that was so grueling you almost couldn't get through it. So we had to go back and balance to where the gameplay could be compelling, but at the same time not physically and mentally destructive to the player. Outside of that, though, once we found that balance, there really, for me and for the team, there isn't necessarily a line, because we're not looking, no pun intended, we're not looking to make the player feel one specific thing. We're just looking to make the player feel something. With Spec Ops, we've created an emotional space for the player to explore his own feelings about being in this situation. Some people will feel nothing. Some people maybe will feel like they can't finish it. Ultimately, so long as they're feeling anything and asking themselves why, then we've succeeded in telling the type of narrative that we wanted to tell.
Can you give me an example of one of these moments in the game? No spoilers, I guess, but one that you can divulge.
There's a moment in the game where you're in the middle of combat, you've been separated from your squad, and you're trying to maneuver around some enemies, and it's in a populated area, and a woman, not running away from anyone, but just trying to get out of the area of combat, can come around a corner. And every time this woman comes around a corner, I shoot her. I don't mean to. You're just in the middle of combat, enemies have been jumping out at you, you've been fighting, and there's movement, and you shoot, and this woman, and she dies. And that's it. Your squad isn't there to see it, no one's there to see it. it was just you and her, and now she's dead, and you keep going. And you just have to live. The game doesn't take points away from you. It doesn't say game over, because that's the way that things happen in life. Like, sometimes horrible things happen. You may not have meant it to happen, but you just have to keep going. You have to live with it. And these are the kind of moments that we're looking to make in the game. The choices don't say, well, you did this so you get faction points, or you did this and you get a nice gun. It's simply, you did this, now live with it. Because that's real life. Whether or not you like it, we can't go back in life. We can't go back in the game without starting over. You know, you just have to go forward, because that's what these characters in Spec Ops are having to feel. Like, they're on a mission. Things are happening that they're not happy with, that frankly it's tearing them apart. But ultimately, if they want to finish, they have to bury that down and keep going. And that's that kind of emotional response we're looking to create in the players, something that allows them to really feel they're on the same journey as Captain Walker and his squad.
Do you think there's a fear in games to explore gray areas like that?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think every 3 months we had to have a sit down around on the conference table. It's like, do people really want to play this? And I think we're scared of it because we haven't done it yet. When you think about books and movies, music especially, think about how much money you spend every year listening to music that makes you sad or makes you angry or makes you scared. Same with books and movies. We, as a people, we use our art to explore our emotions that we may not want to feel in our day-to-day life because of actual events. With video games being such an immersive experience where we can really get in the shoes of another character, we have to allow ourselves to feel more than just, I am the hero, or I am the Han Solo character, or, oh, I'm a little scared. Like, we need to open these emotional boundaries up to be able to feel more. And I think we're getting to that. You're seeing a lot more games beginning to come out and announce now that are aiming to be a bit more exploratory in how we internally feel. And in many ways, I feel we have a duty as an industry and a medium to do this with our art, to make something that allows us to say or find out a bit more about who we are.
What does Spec Ops say about you?
Well, I mean, I wrote it, so I don't know that necessarily I could say what it says about me. But I think for me it says, I believe that we're all good and bad at the same time. We have every shade of white, black, and gray within us, and we don't necessarily start out one and end that way. We change. Things happen to us. Things affect us that make us see ourselves differently and become differently. We're all constantly evolving, and really the only choice that matters in life is necessarily sometimes the last choice you make. You know, there's no mathematical counter saying, well, you did this many bad, this many good, so, you know, you're gonna die rich, or you're gonna die poor in a gutter. Like, things, it doesn't happen that way. I mean, so yeah, I would say it says to me that I'm gray, I think is what it says.
Fascinating.
I tried to explain that with the most polite language possible. I think I pulled it off.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming. Glad you could stop by.